People need buddies, and movies, apparently, need cops. Pair those two truths together and we've got one of the greatest film tropes there ever was. Here are our picks for the 10 best buddy cop movies of all time. To figure out the components to create the coolest coppin' buddies, we've got to sift through everything that makes a buddy cop movie work. It's not just two police officers who get the bad guys, it's a two-person team. Two halves that make a perfect whole, a yin and a yang, but, usually with guns and stuff. We're going to inspect and dissect exactly what traits are needed to make the perfect duo before we boldly declare our choice for best of all time. A title that is legally binding and unimpeachable. But first, a little origin story. Most film buffs trace the beginnings of the buddy cop flick back to Akira Kurosawa's 1949 film Stray Dog, in which a novice detective gets help from a senior partner in the case of a missing gun. That film gets a most honorable mention here because it's a good and early Kurosawa-Mifune collaboration, but in terms of what we expect from a modern-day buddy cop movie, it wasn't until decades later that the genre really found its footing. As I see it, there was one principal discovery that made this genre what it is. Just like the caveman discovered fire, the buddy cop movies found sweet, hot action. As much as a good buddy cop film hinges on buddyhood, that friendship has to be forged through car chases, bomb defusing, and constant near-death experiences. Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage bonded over smashed trolleys and poison-filled rockets. Dolph Lundgren and Brandon Lee explored their cultural differences while kicking ass. Burt Reynolds and Norman Golden II would have been fun to watch no matter what, but the boat chases, wheelies, and sparking cowboy boots in Cop and a Half made their relationship an absolute thrill ride. The buddiness is heightened when the stakes are at the highest. So, we want the hottest action when we're looking for our best buddies. And pound for pound, the most gripping sequences in the buddyverse can be found in Lethal Weapon.
You're not gonna make it.
I'm gonna make it.
There's not enough room.
Sure, I'll make it.
You're not gonna make it. Get off the mother.
God damn it, you were right, Yeah, there wasn't enough room.
I'm not even picking one of the Lethal Weapon movies here. We're talking about the whole franchise, because when people think of buddy cops, Riggs and Murtaugh might just be the standard bearer. In 4 blockbusters released over the course of a decade, the Lethal Weapon leads delivered a constant stream of crazy moments and rowdy stunts, while Mel Gibson and Danny Glover enhanced the film with gritty performances and also weren't trying to be really funny until the sequels. Their running and shooting and falling and shoulder popping made these films legendary among their buddy cop kin. Director Richard Donner was a master of many genres, directing everything from the original Superman to Goonies to Scrooge. With Lethal Weapon, he sewed a fine quilt of comedy, layered characters, and high-octane action. Lethal Weapon provided a roadmap for how future films could use a comedic duo to lighten things up in between massive action sequences. Hot, sweet action. If we're going to get the hot action we crave in our buddy cop films, the movie can't be about a couple of desk jockeys who always turn in their paperwork on time. Whether it's a good cop, bad cop setup, or just one half of the pair that's going rogue, a buddy cop film relies on a little pushback against authority. Jimmy Dix didn't want to play by the rules, nor did Axel Foley, and Detective Chris Leach fell in love with the suspect's girlfriend when he was supposed to be on a stakeout. It's not really important why the cops are ignoring orders, just that they cause a headache for their superiors. That's why, in our number 9 spot, I'm going with a duo who epitomized rule flaunting above anything else, James Caan and Alan Arkin in Freebie and the Bean.
Hey, I ain't gonna fall, I'm careful.
How about if you got pushed off?
What are you doing?
Huh? I'm getting crazy up here. Where's Motley?
He's out of town laundering some money.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he'll be back on Monday. We play poker Monday. He wouldn't miss that, I'm telling you.
Still live in the same place?
Yeah, he lives there, I'm telling you, he ain't moved.
What's that for?
Terrific performance, very subtle.
I'm not crazy. I'm gonna push him. Terrific.
Well, it worked, didn't it? I scared the crap out of him.
Terrible.
I was imitating you.
The 1970s was full of televised cop dramas like The Streets of San Francisco and Hawaii Five-0, where officers did their job and did it well. In contrast, Freebie and the Bean presented a couple of cops constantly failing upward, accidentally uncovering evidence and then crashing cars into old people's living rooms. The officers want to do the right thing, they're just not very good at what they do. Directed by Richard Rush, the film pairs two actors with meaningful movie credits, Khan still floating on Godfather acclaim, and Arkin coming in hot off the film adaptation of Catch-22. The casting gave the movie the gravitas of a cop drama, even as all of Freebie and Bean's attempts at policing resulted in shenanigans. The movie didn't bust any box offices, but it was a welcome spoof of those shows where cops confidently cuffed crooks. Freebie and the Bean offered a goofy twist, and now, 50 years on, we still want to see buddies who get a little off the rails, whether it's due to incompetence or a rebellious nature. The action and the authority issues are just part of a greater plot, part of the fertile contextual ground from which spring two officers who might form a meaningful friendship. Important as those components are, the core of the buddy cop film is, of course, the relationship between our two crime fighters. Because every Holmes needs a Watson, right? One of the great joys of watching police partners in action is seeing how their contrasting points of view change the story and change each other. Feds makes Rebecca De Mornay the brawn, while Mary Gross played the brains. Stop or My Mom Will Shoot forces stereotypical Stallone to fight crime with the eternally delightful Estelle Getty, a pairing that subverts the tropes of buddy copdom in the most on-the-nose way. Shanghai Noon investigates just what happens when a Chinese Imperial Guard and an Owen Wilson have to team up to rescue a princess in the 1800s, a formula that had already worked once for Jackie Chan when paired with a Chris Tucker. While broader comedies are excellent vehicles for opposing personalities, more nuanced differences can create a compelling relationship and storyline. We see it in the different styles of Jimmy Doyle and Buddy Russo in The French Connection. And in Seven, we watch an aging Detective Somerset spend his last investigation with a young, wet-behind-the-ears David Mills. While each of these mentions is deserving, my 8th spot belongs to Bong Joon-ho's 2003 crime thriller, Memories of Murder.
DJ가 그거 틀어주면서 신청자 엽서를 읽어줬는데 태령읍에서 외로운 남자가 보냅니다. 비 오는 밤 꼭 틀어주세요.
미스권 나이스! 굿 아이디어! 그 추리소설 많이 바꾸면 학교 다닐 때.
As Park Do-man and So Tae-yoon investigate a series of killings, we see that they're similarly serious, but with very different techniques. Joon-ho used the buddy cop formula in Memories of Murder to explore the psychology of a psychological thriller. One cop thinks he can determine guilt through eye contact, while the other wants to use things like fingerprints and gunpowder samples, evidence. The relationship of the two officers has an ebb and flow that matches the movement of the story. They uncover things about themselves and each other as they slowly move past their differences. Meanwhile, Bong Joon-ho incorporates brilliant visual contrast to tell the story and differentiate between the two detectives, framing each character differently depending on the angle of the scene. For example, putting Park center screen when there's an intuitive interrogation, compared to So skirting the edge of frame as he analyzes evidence. The visuals create the dichotomy in which our unaligned cops exist. Their differences are emphasized at every turn, all the way down to the bitter end, when they stand together and watch the bad guy get away. When you're so busy running through hot action and flipping off your bosses and dealing with a partner who drives you crazy, you don't have time to be super verbose. For this reason, our favorite buddy cops have all mastered the art of the one-liner.
You're fired.
The right words in the perfect moment will burrow into our brains for the rest of time,
You son of a bitch.
having us thinking about a shades-wearing Schwarzenegger every time someone says,
I'll be back.
And speaking of Schwarzenegger, the Governator is one of the most prolific one-line deliverers in the history of talking.
Stick around.
While Training Day, Die Hard, and The Rock have singular lines that belong in the Buddy Cop Hall of Fame, I'm throwing my vote behind the one-line wonder. In a film that has more puns and punches than anyone could ever count, so please don't, and leave it in the comments, whatever you do. Don't do that, that would make me look foolish. At number 7, we've got Last Action Hero.
I is that guy. Cone of phrase.
Predator, Commando, Terminator 2, or Kindergarten Cop, Arnold Schwarzenegger punctuates almost every bit of action with a sweet one-liner and an exit.
This is the Lieutenant Governor. Later, here's what I...
When the governor gets here, call me.
I don't believe it's possible to pick Arnold's best line, but I do think Last Action Hero serves as the perfect intersection of Schwarzenegger catchphrases and buddy cop one-liner glory.
You want to be a farmer? Here's a couple of acres.
With Jack Slater playing the action star police officer in the movie about an action star police officer who teams up with a kid magically transported into the movie world, Last Action Hero leans all the way into its genre. The one-liners and cliché action scenes aren't the cherry on top, but rather the meat and potatoes that make up this movie. Schwarzenegger's litany of zingers that predated this movie are essentially the reason the whole movie got made.
I'll be back. Ha! You did not gonna say that, did you?
That's what you always say.
The original script, written by Zach Penn and Adam Leff, was written as a parody of action movies from writers like Shane Black, who wrote The Hot Action and Lethal Weapon. In a super meta and hilarious move, Shane Black was hired to rewrite Last Action Hero and make it more commercial, and with his draft came a lot more action. Fortunately, there's no way to write out the sound bites when Arnie's in front of the camera. Like a fine wine, Last Action Hero has only gotten better with age. The film was released in 1993, right in the middle of the buddy cop heyday. Moviegoers still felt very passionately about their crime-fighting movies and didn't know what to make of a film that poked fun at the genre, with a barrage of one-liners no less.
No sequel for you.
People may have been a little miffed by the movie in the mid-90s, but now it's a quintessential buddy cop film about everything that makes a buddy cop film dumb and good. And dumb.
To be or not to be? Not to be.
We've got hot action, authority issues, characters on opposite ends of some kind of spectrum, and one-liners galore in our buddy cop stew. What is the next ingredient? Should we add a dash of friendship or a pinch of animosity? You know what? Let's sprinkle in the angry stuff. Because one thing I've learned from studying up on cop buddies is that some of them aren't buddies at all. In Training Day, Alonzo Harris and Jake Hoyt start out with a nice mentor-mentee friendship that unravels until one of them is the villain and the other is the protagonist. Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde are on opposite sides of the law and the food chain in Zootopia, and if Officer Hopps got her way, Wilde would have been in jail before the plot even got started. Johnny Utah and Bodhi's friendship was never meant to be, even as Point Break is near the top of the search results no matter how many different ways you Google the phrase buddy cop movies. And then there's one of the greatest non-friendships in film, with two characters showing such disdain for each other through the first 3/4 of the movie that you'd be shocked to find out the actors actually liked each other off camera. In our sixth spot, the best anti-buddy buddy cop film of them all, 48 Hours.
You're not gonna make it.
What are you talking about? I got you a gun. I got the money. I got everything.
Take game, man, and blow his f***ing brains out.
Bullshit. He ain't gonna try it. Right, cop?
Are you crazy, man? I was just bluffing.
This 1984 film starts off the way many conflicted buddy cop comedies do, with a cop and a con who need each other's help for some reason. What sets 48 Hours apart from similar attempts is the unbridled hatred that only Nick Nolte can emote, coupled with the undercutting sarcasm that no one has ever pulled off quite as well as Eddie Murphy. Jack Cates and Reggie Hammond hate each other at the top of the film when the relationship is just cop versus perp, but things only seem to get worse when they move on to cop and cooperating witness. Even if other buddy cop films have tried the same approach, 48 Hours stands out because of the particular actor's on-screen dynamic. Nick Nolte embodied the salty old guard who'd been in the game for a long time, while Eddie Murphy was a young comedian making his feature film debut. This touch of meta-narrative added to every growl and grumble from Nolte and made Murphy's big reactions that much better. Fortunately, the two got along fine on set, saving all the punches, jabs, and anti-buddy behavior for when the cameras were rolling. After all that angry talk, it's probably time to relax and have a laugh. Every good buddy cop movie infuses a little comedy after things get too intense. With the stakes being as high as they are in the buddy cop business, it's not uncommon to dip into absurdism and see some ridiculous things in otherwise serious moments. If you disagree, I'd like to introduce you to Leslie Nielsen's career from 1980 on in support of my claim.
I don't know. My memory ain't so great.
Oh, yeah? Maybe this'll refresh your memory.
I don't know, it's still kind of hazy.
How about this?
Yeah, I remember him. I used to see him around. Why do you want to know?
I can't tell you that.
Well, maybe this'll help.
The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad set the bar in terms of slapstick cop comedy, but he didn't really have a buddy. Then there's 21 Jump Street, putting two fish way out of water, and Dead Heat, introducing zombies to cops decades before The Walking Dead was conceived. When it comes to crazy action, an odd couple pairing, and a general over-the-top approach, one buddy cop movie has an unfair advantage over the competition because, you see, the movie in our 5 slot, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, has cartoons.
Hey, Eddie, you made the front page today.
Yeah, I guess I made some ink.
What, eh?
Come on, Eddie.
But tell me, Eddie, is that a rabbit in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
Robert Zemeckis' 1988 film broke a lot of molds, the most obvious being a world in which 3D humans and 2D cartoons interacted normally despite their profound cultural differences. Bob Hoskins serves as the typical overworked detective, a near-polar opposite to the wascally wabbit he finds himself working with. As opposed to all the hot action coming from car chases and carefully orchestrated explosions, Who Framed Roger Rabbit has falling refrigerators and brick walls, flattening silly characters with squeaky voices. The film sampled the ridiculous violence of Looney Tunes and plugged them into a plot about a movie star rabbit who was framed for murder. Every scene has larger-than-life moments because the filmmakers were not limited to what was only physically possible. With Bob Hoskins flaunting some impressive physical comedy abilities, the slapstick bits were on point and brought a new dimension to the silliness that could be explored with badge-wearing buddies. The movie might be utterly outrageous, but it's an important piece in our serious conversation about what makes the perfect buddy cop movie.
That's all, folks.
Continuing that serious conversation, knowing the perfect buddy cop movie needs to have hot action authority issues, contrasting personalities, a little detest between friends, one-line zingers, and at least a hint of slapstick, you might be thinking that both officers need to be people. But that kind of thinking is silly. Sillier even than the tangent I'm about to go on for our number 4 pick. Police dogs have been used in film since at least 1914, and their transition from serious work to buddy cop films was seamless. Can a dog partake in an action sequence? Of course. Do dogs have authority issues? Never known one that didn't. Is a well-timed growl considered a one-liner? Of course it is, dummy. Pairing a canine with a gruff cop works every time, whether it's Chuck Norris and a sheepdog tracking down neo-Nazis, Jim Belushi and an ornery German shepherd sniffing out a drug lord, or Will Arnett and a Rottweiler going undercover. The model of Pooch and Police worked so well that they even tried Whoopi Goldberg with a dinosaur in Theodore Rex, which it didn't work. That one for sure did not work. But these dog-friendly films check all the established buddy cop boxes, but none of them can unseat the best cop and doggy show of all time. At number 4, we've got Turner and Hooch.
Slow down.
This 1989 classic fits the mold so well, a lot of human buddy cops probably learned how to do the job from watching Hooch. Scott Turner and an enormous Bordeaux Mastiff make the perfect odd couple, with the slobbering dog wrecking Turner's meticulously manicured home and life. The sheer size of the dog turns every scene into an action sequence, knocking things over and pouncing on scary bad guys. But it goes beyond the window dressing of these tropes. It's truly wild how thoroughly this film checks all of the buddy cop boxes. The shared trauma of Turner and Hooch, one losing his partner and the other losing his owner, gives the characters common ground over which they can bridge their overt differences. And maybe that's what a dog buddy movie brings to the buddy cop party. It's not just that the two cops make a good team, it's that they understand each other in a way that no one else can. The partners speak their own language, and in their time of greatest need, only the buddy can save or be saved by his or her other buddy, both physically and emotionally. The majority of cops might be bipeds, but Turner and Hooch has every right to be in the conversation for best buddy cop movie of all time. As I look over all the ingredients needed for a successful buddy cop movie, one word comes to mind: irresistible. I mean, a lot of other words have already come to mind. I've said close to 2,800 so far, but I'm using irresistible right now to prove a point. With all the hot action and opposing personalities pushing and pulling in different directions, not to mention the tempting one-liners and rebelling against authority, someone's got to fall in love, right? I mean, that's a hot stew. The buddy cops might not always share a kiss before the movie fades to black, but at the end of their epic policing journey, the connection transcends normal companionship. They've discovered things about themselves. They've grown and changed, and each cop has made the other better. Gracie Hart and Eric Matthews banter and jab and give grief until the climax of the movie, and then they start smooching. Tango and Cash view themselves as mortal rivals until circumstances force them to take a harder look at each other, and the tension gets borderline sexual. You know what? Kill borderline out of that sentence. It's just straight up sexual. From the moment Jack, Quinn, and Yaz meet in Double Team, we're wondering if they'll start hugging and never let go. And then there's our number 3 pick. A movie where love breaks through the cement like a weed determined to find the sun, the 2007 masterpiece, Hot Fuzz.
Where's Lurch? He's in the freezer. Did you say cool off? No, I didn't say anything, actually. Shame. There was a bit earlier on that you missed when I distracted him with the cuddly monkey, and then I said, playtime's over, and I hit him with the peace lily. You're off the f***ing chain!
Nicholas Angel hates Danny Butterman. Hates him. Thinks he's the worst. Butterman hates that Angel thinks he's the worst, and it looks like everyone's destined to be sad and mad for the rest of their lives. So, what flips the magnet so these two can stop repelling each other and come closer? That's right, the true essence of buddy cop. Simon Pegg plays an uptight sergeant who's married to his work, while Nick Frost is a schlub whose only real concern when it comes to policing is how they do it in the movies. As soon as they're forced to do some actual crime solving, their differences become the connective tissue that unites them. Angel sees the value in policing like a movie star. Butterman learns the importance of not being drunk all the time. The movie has every bit of action, rule-breaking, one-lining, odd coupling, and goofballing we want in our buddy cop films, and through it all, we watch these two characters change and become better. And in an early draft of the screenplay, Butterman was actually a woman, so this scene on the couch, where it seems like they're about to kiss, they probably were gonna kiss at some point. I don't know if that's true or not, I'm gonna double check that. They didn't know it at the start, but they needed each other. And once they found each other, they learned the true meaning of love. In writing this, I've made a crucial discovery. Action, authority issues, conflicted couples, slapstick stakes, awesome zingers. Sometimes there's romance and sometimes there's a dog. While there's definitely a recipe for making a buddy cop flick, it doesn't actually rely on the buddies being cops. At the core of its core, the buddy cop formula is about two people coming together to beat the odds. They don't always need guns and badges, but they do need each other. Jack Walsh is a bounty hunter, and Jonathan Mardukas is an accountant, but Midnight Run is for sure a buddy cop movie. Hot Pursuit has one cop and a drug lord's widow. A cop and a lawyer become security guards and armed and dangerous. Will Smith and Gene Hackman are a lawyer and a spy. I think he's like a retired spy. Anyway, enemy of the state, neither one of them cops. But damn if it doesn't feel like a buddy cop movie. And Pineapple Express is really just about weed. But nevertheless, these folks are buddy cops. As a non-cop myself, I have a lot of appreciation for the hapless, badgeless folks who found themselves at home in this genre. There are so many to choose from, but the least cop-like of all has to be Eugene Proctor in our number 2 pick, Pure Luck. Though luck has nothing to do with this movie landing in the number 2 spot.
You call my girlfriend a whore?
No, it was
Nobody call anyone a whore. It's a misunderstanding. Senor, let us buy you a drink.
You call her $30
$50.
Not only is Eugene Proctor not a cop, he succumbs to an almost clinical case of bad luck. The only reason he's paired with the straight-laced investigator is because he, like the person the two are trying to find, is prone to extreme misfortune. Proctor and Campanella, like so many buddy cops before and after them, are a mess of differences. Biggest of all, Proctor can't do anything right. Even if he had wanted to become a cop, his luck wouldn't have allowed him to graduate from the academy. And yet, through the course of the movie, Campanella starts turning his partner's weaknesses into strengths, utilizing his bad luck to solve the case. Dumb mishaps drive the action, authority issues are born from accidents, and slapstick scenes are a foregone conclusion on account of Proctor's condition. It's all there. All the pieces fit in this underappreciated buddy cop movie that proves all cops need buddies, but not everybody needs to be a cop. So here we are at number 1, and what have we learned? Shockingly little, I'd wager. But the best buddy cop film can't just have the hottest action or the best enemies to lovers storyline. It can't all be jokes or be too serious. It has a rebellious streak and one-liners that cut like a hot knife through butter. There are no dogs, and both cops are cops, but the movie would still be great even if neither one of those were the case. As we see it, that really only leaves one logical choice. The number 1 buddy cop movie of all time is Bad Boys.
Don't ever say I wasn't there for you.
Mike Lowry and Marcus Burnett have been through it all, and their relationship has never wavered, even when it was wavering. They've tracked down $100 million worth of drugs, seen friends die, had love affairs that tested their friendship, and they've even grown old together. Every step of the way, they've embodied what it means to be buddy cops. They do things a little different, but they get the results. They drive fast, they shoot guns, and almost get blown up all the time. The police chief hates their tactics, but needs them on the force. At times, they're outrageous, but Mike and Marcus love each other fiercely, and we love watching them fight crime together. At the end of the day, we want to see Will Smith and Martin Lawrence on screen together. We want to see Lowry and Burnett overcome the odds, especially if they yell and scream a little along the way. Everything about this friendship makes us root for these two buddies, which is why we think it's the greatest buddy cop movie of all time.
Now back up, put the gun down, and give me a pack of tropical fruit Bubblicious. And some Skittles.
That is the conclusion of this buddy cop list. I'm fully aware I left off some absolutely iconic movies, so feel free to jump in slow motion firing 2 guns into the air about it in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to IGN Movies and TV for more Cinefix movie lists.